Alright, so welcome to part 2 of the presentation. So where we left off was looking at the terminology that ITIL has, which said that the business is everyone else in your company other than IT, and that the customer could be internal or external and contains the users. Customer could be a functional or an org unit, basically a group that receives that service and has an SLA with your IT department. A function would be the service desk, for example. Again, we said incidents can be repetitive. These would be your support tickets in a sense. And if they happen too many times, you open a trouble or a problem ticket, in which case you have to analyze the root cause instead of just get the customer back online as soon as possible. We said that services are a means of delivering value to customers by facilitating outcomes customers want to achieve without the ownership of specific costs and risks. So when we say IT services, we mean it's a means of delivering value to the customer. So whether it's email or virtual machines or servers, etc. They're all services, but really you're delivering value. And this is central to ITIL 2011, where value comes into many of the framework's aspects. Some other terminology we might touch later on: critical success factor (CSF) and KPIs, SLAs, and what they call a change is when you actually want to change a VM or update something or update a patch. All of these are considered changes, and they have to be managed in a certain way. So ITIL has some best practices for change management, and whenever a new service is being designed, we have something called an SDP, or a service design package. So these are some of the frameworks. Sorry about that. These are some of the terminology in the framework that you should keep in mind for the remainder of the presentation. So what's IT service management? Again, it's the implementation and management of quality IT services that meet the needs of the business. IT service management is performed by IT service providers through an appropriate mix of people, processes, and information technology. In other words, it's a systemic approach or a systematic approach to enable IT organizations to plan, develop, deliver, and support IT services. So IT service management will basically deal with the following. You have your IT organization and you have the business on the other side. Again, you may work at bigger companies where the IT department actually does refer to the other departments as the business. Now, IT service management will be between both of you, where you're taking your infrastructure and your applications and whatnot, and you're managing them in a way that you can deliver value to that customer. So this is going to take up the remainder of the presentation, where we talk about the 5 different IT service lifecycle phases. So the phases were given names by the ITIL framework. The first is called strategy, the second is design, third is transition, operation, and continuous improvement. So service strategy would deal with the business goal of the service, while service design would deal with how you develop that service. Finally, you're gonna develop it and transition it into a test environment and then implement it into production. So this would be service transition. Again, each one of these 5 phases is a book that you can purchase and follow all the best practices outlined in ITIL. Today's presentation is not, of course, going to do justice to those books, but at least it'll give you an idea of where you can get started. Service operations deals with the day-to-day of your events, incidents, and problems. What you would have to do with service operation is consider that the service desk operates under the service operations aspect of or phase of ITIL. So your service desk is not called help desk because it's managing the services and how they interact with the business. They distinguish between service desk and help desk in the sense that help desk is not really a definition or a word that's used in ITIL, simply because of the way that they define what the role is. And service continuous improvement. So that's basically saying that all the phases prior need to be improved and reviewed all the time. So I'm going to show this slide here. I know it's a busy slide, but at the end of this presentation you should be able to quickly explain it and talk about the different services or different phases of ITIL. Again, it starts off with service strategy, service design, service transition, service operation, and then continuous improvement for all of these phases. Why? Because in the end the business needs to receive that service. So ITIL is going to tell you how to talk to them, how to build strategies, and so on. So we'll start with the first phase. This is called service strategy. Again, it has processes. We defined processes earlier in the terminology slide. So service strategy has the following processes. They're called service portfolio management, financial management for IT services, business relationship management. Again, how do you talk to the business? How do you manage problems that occur with the services? And how do you ask them for their needs? And how do you manage the strategy of the services you need to provide them? How you're going to provide it? What's the point? What are the goals that you're trying to achieve? And demand management is that, again, you don't want a certain email server to go down simply because you didn't account for the fact that on Fridays they might use it less or more, or on the weekends, etc. They mentioned that you need to have a service knowledge management system, SKMS. Again, the service knowledge management system would contain different systems in it that will allow you, that ITIL recommends that you have, so that you can track your services. So in this system you would have a list of your service portfolio. Maybe it could be an internal wiki on your organization, or some other tool that allows people to see the different services that are available. So they call it the service catalog. And in this management system, you would have the retired services, you'd have the services that are going to be published soon, as well as documentation on how they're used. You might have an SKMS at your organization, even though it's not called SKMS. Okay, so service design process, that's the second phase of ITIL. It talks, they recommend that you have the following processes in place. And again, if you need to get into more detail about these processes, you would purchase the book and the second book and read through it. So design coordination, so who's going to talk about the different design of the IT service. Service catalog management, again you need to catalog all the different services, who's going to add it to the catalog once it's designed, and so on, to be tracked up until the end of life. Service level management, again once you are designing a service, you need to think about what level will it run at. Is it going to always be available? Is it going to be available 99% of the time? And that will be your service level management, so your SLAs. Once you've defined that, you actually have to manage the availability, the capacity that the service can handle or provide. Service continuity management, security management, and supplier management. Again, you need to extract the best value for your money when you have suppliers. They recommend certain charts. For example, you provide an IT service and its downtime can be plotted this way. They said a SLAM chart, SLA monitoring chart, which is basically a color-coded chart to show the targets that were met or not met or missed each month. Again, the targets are written in your SLA for each service that you're providing to the business. Now you're going to measure reliability using certain metrics. They've given them names, and you can find more information about this on Google as well. MTBSI, MTBF, MTRS. Basically, you're measuring how long before a service goes down again, how long before it goes up again, and the distance of time between them that it's actually up. The third phase is service transition, and these are the processes they recommend that you have in place: transition planning and support, change management, and many organizations already have a change management where there's a team that reviews change requests before they're actually implemented. Service assets and configuration management. Recall we talked about assets, or like keyboards. Configuration items were actual servers and so on that could be affected by changes in their configuration or their settings. So this actually goes under service transition. This would be your team, a team that's involved in making sure that everything is managed in terms of patches and upgrades, because after all, they're the ones that deployed it. They transitioned it from test into production. And yes, there's a process for releasing and deployment that has to be managed under service transition, change evaluation, service validation, and testing. Now, service operations also requires certain processes, and this would be your service desk mainly that's running these processes. This includes event management, incident management, problem management, request fulfillment, such as reset my password, access management. I need to access a folder, give me some permissions in Active Directory, for example. Recall the differences between incidents and problems, where incidents are your day-to-day tickets, and problems are things that recur, or incidents that recur and need a root cause analysis. Again, we mentioned the service desk, and what they recommend is that you have certain functions under service operation. These functions will be your service desk, of course, and that's the main part, but also you need technical management, so these will be the guys that run your facilities and so on. IT operations management, look at your ops control. Application management, again, people who will be making sure that the applications are running. So I'm running out of time, but in the last 30 seconds, I'm just going to mention that ITIL wants you to monitor and trigger the events or trigger processes when the events happen, log incidents, and set priorities for your different tickets based on a preset grid. So I'm just going to run through the slides so you can see them. You can pause the video and read them on your own.